Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
That is the question that helped Ronald Reagan win the White House back in 1980. 40 years later, Americans are asking themselves that very same question. And a new poll from the Financial Times and the Peterson Foundation spells trouble for Trump's reelection. Almost two-thirds of Americans say they are not better off financially with President Trump in office, with 31% saying they're actually worse off under this current administration. Joining me now, Jim Doyle, president of the Business Forward Foundation, and Peter Spiegel, U.S. managing editor for the Financial Times. He's the person behind this polling. And back with me, my friend Charlie Sykes. Peter, the biggest driver behind people feeling worse off, and I want you to tie this to the election last night, because when President Obama was in office, we kept looking at the coasts, which after the financial crisis were doing a whole lot better. But what we didn't pay enough attention to were those swing states that said, no, sir, we are not doing better. Take us there.
So you're right. So the dynamic of 2016 hasn't changed. This grumpiness in the electorate over the state of the economy, which really drove the Trump surge, that still exists. That hasn't changed. People don't think that Trump has changed the dynamic. But the one thing I want to just pull out is we did some sort of drilling down and oversampling in some of the big swing states. And we didn't do Virginia, but we did North Carolina, which is, some may argue, I would argue, is a similar state in that this used to be the Solid South, right? These are sort of these Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia. They used to be solid Republican. They're becoming more purple. And what we saw in North Carolina in particular is much higher. 31% nationwide, people saying they're worse off. 39% in North Carolina. So some of these regions, the Midwest, the South, these are the regions that were sort of the overlooked. They are the ones that are saying that they are even doing more badly now under Trump than they were under Obama. Those are the ones where I think the economic issues could have, and maybe played a role in Virginia in particular, may continue to have a role in undermining Trump's argument when he seeks re-election next year.
Charlie, economic expansion is usually a very big win for an incumbent. But the fact that so many people aren't feeling well about their personal finance, are they going to give this president a bit of grace and say, I like his policies, they just haven't helped me enough yet?
Well, that's what you hear so far. But like here in Wisconsin, you have manufacturing not doing well, agriculture not doing well. But I also think that there's a different dynamic. In 1980, it was, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I really think next year, the big question a lot of people are going to ask is, can you take 4 more years of this? And I think that when you look at the anxiety that's been created by the trade wars, by the debt, by the crony capitalism, you have real questions about where we are going as a country and where we're going as an economy.
Jim, you say there's a case against President Trump from a business perspective. The president didn't have business class voters last time around. Over the last 4 years, he's acquired quite a bit, whether it's the tax cuts or just look at deregulation in the markets. Where do you see the case against him from a business perspective?
Well, I think the FT results are driven by wages, as Peter explains. Wages are based on productivity. Productivity is based on investment in facilities and skills. And frankly, with the trade war Donald Trump has started and the tax cuts that went disproportionately to the wealthy, there's really no incentive for businesses around the country to invest in their staff, invest in their facilities. And as a result, wages are flat.
Peter, party affiliation, how much did that have to do with the way people are feeling? Because the president, if nothing else, is an extraordinary salesman. And even if people aren't doing better, they hear the president saying, the economy's great, I'm your pro-business guy.
So if you actually ask specifically, do you think Donald Trump's economic policies are better for the economy or worse for the economy, that is a clear partisan difference. When you use his name and tie it to the economy. So it's 45-45, our poll showed that there's a complete partisan separation on is Trump good for the economy? But I think the interesting thing about the more broader question, which you constantly ask, which is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? That gets to your personal situation. And what we've seen is that partisan difference begins to fade away when people think about their own personal situation. So we don't know necessarily whether people will vote on Trump, and if they do, it will be partisan, or they return to the 1980 election, the 84 election, and actually vote on personal economic issues. And I think that's the thing we want to watch over the course of the year. Does Trump approval rating sort of go along with their feeling about their personal finances? And we won't know, obviously, until Election Day. The other point, just on your question about the business vote, I had a meeting yesterday with a very senior banker here in New York, and I asked him that very question. I said, look, is Trump good for banking? He said, look, if I was to vote on is my personal bank, the bank I run, is it would be better off under Trump? I got to say yes. Deregulation's been great, but trade war, everything else he does to the economy, that is making me nervous. So it's very interesting that as you say, the coast, so the Wall Street types who have traditionally been seen as traditional Republicans are very, very nervous the way Trump is pursuing his trade policies. And even here, we see the average voter. If you ask them what is the biggest cloud hanging over the American economy, they say the trade war.
But to Wall Street types, Jim, to you, does the business community at the end of the day matter that much in the election? Not too many big business guys or Wall Streeters rocking up in swing states.
We've got 32 million small business leaders across the country, and they're asking some very simple questions. Did I benefit from the tax cut? Is the trade war working? Is America First really a good deal for America? And the answer to these questions are generally no. President Trump wants to spend $30 billion on a wall to keep people out. China's spending $1.2 trillion on roads, bridges, highways, and ports to bring people into their country. There are all sorts of things that business leaders are dealing with on a day-to-day basis that are broken. There's a greater disconnect between President Trump's promises and his record. And if we answer the question those 10% of people in the middle are asking, we won't just decide who the next president's going to be. That's important to helping fix America. We can't fix America if we don't really start talking the middle 10%.
Will there be a Democratic candidate who can make a case for economic expansion for all?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.